Hey everyone, it's Melanie of Art Studio 320, and this week's project is my childhood desk. It was my brother's before it was mine, and it was my son's after it was mine, and now it has returned to me, and I am going to give it an update. Not quite sure what I'm going to do. There is some solid oak on this. The legs, I believe, are solid oak. The drawer fronts, I believe, are solid oak. The top, I believe, is an oak veneer, and the side probably also an oak veneer, but we will get started and find out for sure. Stick around. One good reason to clean your piece up before you start sanding is so that you don't catch anything on your sandpaper and create a scratch that you can't repair. I found that the best way to get that finish that you really want is to start with a 60 grit or an 80 grit, go to a 120, then a 220, and then a 320. Because if you skip a step, you are making more work for yourself and you're not going to get the finish that you really want. So follow the steps and you will get the best finish possible. It's always a good idea to turn your piece different ways, on its back, on its sides, because every time you flip it, you're going to see other spots that need to be taken care of. And you'll know which parts that you don't need to do. But if there's a chance that you'll be able to see it, you should sand it down and finish it. My orbital sander does not get into corners because it's round. So I use a Ryobi Cat for those. It looks like an iron, so it sands into corners. The smallest drawer in the desk was broken on all pieces, including the bottoms. So I had to glue all the joints back together. And then I turned it over and I glued the bottom to the sides, and then I used some heavy jars of paint to hold it down. Now this drawer was from my last project and I wanted to repurpose this slide because the smaller drawer didn't have a slide. So I'm just taking it off of here. I wanted to show as much wood on this piece as possible, but there were some areas that the quality of wood just wasn't up to par. So I decided to paint those areas, and after I painted is when I like to put on my wood filler, because then you can see exactly where it needs to be and where you're going to see it. This piece of wood was on the inside of the desk and it was so pretty I didn't want to do anything but stain it. And I like to do at least 2 different colors stains. So I used General Finishes Java, which is what you see right there. And then the other color I used next to it is Antique Walnut. I like these 2 colors a lot. You'll see me use them on a lot of different projects in a lot of different ways. I wanted to create a wash with Goddess from Fusion, and so I'm going to take a small amount of water and an even smaller amount of paint, and I'm going to mix it up until I feel like it's the right consistency for what I want to do with the drawers and with the top. This is not an exact science. It really depends on what you are looking for in a finish. I wanted to show some of the paint, but I also wanted to show the grain. And it took me a few times to get the right consistency to get the finish that I wanted. So I had to add a little bit of paint a couple of times. So you'll see me use a couple coats here before I get to the consistency that I really liked. And you can do that. You can do it over and over again. It doesn't matter. It's not going to hurt the wood. Now I use a white lint-free cloth that's disposable, which I wish it wasn't disposable, but they are the cleanest, they are lint-free, and they are the easiest cloths to use for this kind of project. And you just wipe it down with that. I try to avoid as many headaches as possible, so I use painter's tape whenever I need to protect the areas that I don't want to get stain on or I don't want to get paint on. Now I generally paint first and then I stain second because the paints I use have top coat in them and it's easy to remove the stain from paint. It is not so easy to remove paint from stain. I found this brush. It's called a color wash brush. It's nice and wide and it's really great for areas like the top of this desk. The other paint I'm using is called Knapsack Khaki. It's by Melange and it is their line of paint that's called One, meaning it's just one step. You don't have to put top coat on it. It's got top coat in it. But it does require even more than 2 coats. And I'm not crazy about that part, but I do like Melange colors a lot. After putting a couple more coats on my top, I decided to turn to this little drawer. It's time to fix the bottom. So I have this slide that I took off of another drawer, so I'm repurposing it, which means you kind of have to hodgepodge it. You have to find something that fits because I didn't have anything that went with it. It wasn't a kit. I just took it off the bottom of a drawer. So I bent the section that was supposed to curl around the other drawer, but it wasn't going to do that on this drawer. It wasn't the same kind of drawer. So I had to try a few different screws and tacks and nails, and with the help of Phil's store, because he might as well open a hardware store. He has so many different kinds of screws and nails. He was able to find me a couple of screws that were short and pointy, and it worked. Ta-da! I cleaned up the hardware that I already had with some steel wool, and then I spray painted it with the color oil rubbed bronze, I think is what it's called. Now this is another one color by Melange, and I didn't like the way the knapsack khaki looked, so I switched the color to Restoration Bronze. It's kind of a brownish green, and it's just a rich color, and I really liked it with the color stain that I had. This piece was unique because it had a backside that was finished. So you saw me paint the backside, and I decided, well, you know, I guess because it's a desk, maybe you could put it away from the wall and you could show both sides. So I decided to go ahead and finish it again. Why not? I like to use a roller when I put on the top coat. I use an ultra extra flat or flat ultra extra, I don't know what it's called. I always call it ultra flat, and it's a polyurethane by Minwax. I just like the finish because it's not shiny, but it brings out the color and it protects any finish that you put on there. And I like to put 3 coats on the top so that it is ultra protected. If you'd like to know my technique for applying top coat, you can check out my video called I've Discovered a Foolproof System for Top Coat. Check that out on my channel, or it may be at the end of this video. I like to use a little piece of steel wool on the hardware I've spray painted, just lightly to get off any kind of lint that might have stuck to the wet paint. It will dull the finish, but I kind of like that look. So if you don't mind that, you should try it. Just don't use too much pressure or you will rub off the paint. Well, friends, that's all I have for you this week. I hope you enjoyed this video. I like the results of this piece. I wasn't sure what to do. I found it difficult because I plan on keeping this for myself, and for some reason I'm more indecisive when I know that it's my piece, and I couldn't make up my mind. I originally put knapsack khaki as my trim color on here. I put a wash of Goddess by Fusion Mineral Paint on top, and I didn't like the combination together. So late last night, before I finished, I decided to repaint the trim with Restoration Bronze by Melange, and I like this contrast much better. Knapsack khaki has a little more yellow in it, and the Goddess is a more soft white, and it just didn't go well together. So I changed it. Yes, it was last minute. Yes, it was at the last minute of my project, but that's how it goes. I didn't film this, but yesterday when I was staining, I had to move the desk. I had to flip it up, and I backed up. I kicked over a can of General Finishes stain, the antique walnut, and it was almost full. And those cans, if you use that brand, you know it's an expensive brand. It's a great stain, and I like using it, so I'm willing to pay the extra price because it does last a long time. But oh my God, I thought, are you kidding me? Another week of spilling. I don't know what's going on, you guys, but I hope that next week I don't spill anything. Thanks for being here. See you next time.
You can do it.